Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Anne Arundel County Board of Education. At this time, we'd like to have our invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all education policies, being ever mindful of your guidance, stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we're going to be moving on to item 2.03, the approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes is written.
Second?
Second.
Do we have consensus? And we do. Moving on to item 2.04, establishment of our agenda order.
Mr. President, I move that item 6.06, main electrical distribution center replacement, Broadneck Elementary School, and item 7.07, CAC be removed from the agenda for today's action and moved to a future meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any discussion? We have consensus? We do have consensus. Okay,
We need to approve the amended agenda.
yes. So we do have a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? We have consensus? We do have consensus. Thank you, everyone. So we're moving on to item 3.0, public comments on agenda items. We do not have any comments this afternoon on agenda items. So we'll be moving on to our report section, section 4.01, Policy Committee Report.
Good afternoon. The Policy Committee met on Tuesday, June 24th for our 24-25 academic year Policy Committee closeout. During this time, the board reviewed, during the 24-25 academic year, the board reviewed 20 policies, an additional 19 policies that appeared on the 24-25 Policy Committee calendar were not reviewed by the committee. These policies have been placed on the 25-26 Policy Committee calendar. The rationale why the 19 policies weren't reviewed this year ranged from the need for additional staff time to review potential updates, or pending regulation reviews by staff, or the release of new regulations by the state. Every year, new policies or updates to existing policies can occur due to changes in state or federal law at the request of staff or at the request of a board member or board members. Prior to the finalization of the 25-26 Policy Committee calendar, the board will be given an opportunity to make requests, which will be added to the calendar by Ms. Wilson and her team based on staff availability, addressing those policies with time sensitivity first. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 4.02, our president's report. So I do have a report this afternoon, and it'll be rather brief. On July the 1st, here in the boardroom, our new student member of the board, 52nd member, I believe, student member of the board was sworn in, Mr. Braden Morgan. And I certainly welcome Braden to the Board of Education of Anne Arundel County. And we are so proud and so pleased to have Braden, a gopher from Glen Burnie High. Okay. On July the 7th, I attended a redistricting session with staff to get some final details and updates, and all of my colleagues had similar opportunities as well. On Monday, July the 14th, I attended with Ms. Pullum, Mr. Morgan, and I think Ms. McFarland, the Parkland presentation hosted by the Anne Arundel County Police Department at Maryland Live. And we received a presentation from Max Schachter, a renowned national school safety advocate, and in fact, father of Alex Schachter, one of the 17 victims tragically murdered in the Parkland school shooting on Valentine's Day, 2018. He presented a very insightful presentation, and there were opportunities for discussion and collaboration. It was a fantastic event. I would like to thank all of our staff. There were many staff members who were there with us. We'd also like to thank our police department for hosting this great event. On July 15th, Ms. Pullum and I attended. You're surprised? Oh, Ms. Pullum, you have some
If you don't
comments
mind,
about?
I just want to mention to the community, this event, the Parkland event, was exceptional. And when I say exceptional, you had stakeholders from the police department, our SROs, you had leadership from our schools, you had folks from AACPS all together in one room, and everyone was paying attention and engaged. That's not normal for folks to go to events like that. Not only that, when we broke up into discussion circles, the SROs were 100% open and honest with us, and so were the principals, and back and forth. That dialogue was critical. And that's all about the partnership that Ms. Moody Jackson and her team have with the police department. We are strengthening every day that relation with our public safety officials. I thank you, Dr. Bedell. I know Ms. Jackson is on a well-needed vacation, but I have to say, if you were there, you would have seen it. But to have everyone engaged and communicating and staying after a 4-hour event, that's a lot. So thank you very much to our Anne Arundel County Police Department, Ms. Jackson and her team, and all that were there. I learned so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pullum. So on July the 15th, Ms. Pullum and I attended a MABE conference or workshop, and it was a virtual workshop about managing contentious meetings. And I think we had a good time. It was very profitable. So I did want to mention, it may be mentioned after me, but on Monday, I think it was Monday, Dr. Bedell was joined by many members of our communications team. Is that correct? As he received the Bob Grossman Leadership in School Communications Award from the National School Public Relations Association. The award is given to one superintendent in the nation who demonstrates commitment to outstanding school public relations and communication. Dr. Bedell, here's another award. Congratulations to you and the whole team. So finally, I would like to take an opportunity to recognize one of my colleagues, Dr. Tobin. Look at the surprise on her face. So Dr. Tobin, she's a candidate, I believe, to fill one of the positions on the AIB. And there were many really qualified people that had been selected for that. Dr. Tobin is one of 6 candidates who have been selected to have their names go to the governor, who will make the final appointments, I believe, of 3 folks. So we are so proud to have Dr. Tobin in that group. Congratulations. So that does conclude my report this afternoon. So we'll be moving on to Dr. Bedell's.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before we go to that first slide, I did want to take this opportunity to go back on that award from yesterday. And I don't know if people heard the remarks, but I want to share something that I said in those remarks that are very important. I, first of all, credited all of the chief communication officers I've worked with in my career as a superintendent, because without these people, there would be no way that I would have been honored yesterday. And I want people to know the credit goes to them. But I wanted to say this part regarding Bob Mosier. And many of you know Bob Mosier's been in this district for a long time. He likes to stay behind the scenes other than the weather calls, the voiceover for weather. And he doesn't like this, but I told him I'm the superintendent, and guess what? This is what I'm going to do. And I said that on the stage yesterday in front of a national audience. Bob Mosier, you are an absolute gem in this work, and you and your team have allowed for Anne Arundel County to prosper from a communication standpoint. The vast majority of what we have accomplished over the last 3 years have come from the brilliant minds of the co-workers in your department. This award is truly based on our communication department accomplishments. And then I close out by saying, thank you for being you. And then I thank the school board, school community at large for trusting me to lead these 85,000 students in one of the most dynamic school districts in this country. And I close out by saying, we are getting it done for our students. And so to Bob, your team, this award really is your department's award. So thank you all. I know he does not like this, but that's I'm sorry, too bad. You deserve it. All right. So thank you, Mr. President. I have a short report today, and I want to start by congratulating Bridget Long of Centered Applied Technology South, who I've had an opportunity to meet with regarding some cake baking skill sets that she has. She recently captured the gold medal in the culinary arts category at the Skills USA competition in Atlanta. Bridget is a graduate of South River High School. To win her gold medal, she had to create and prepare a 5-course menu demonstrating technical skills, time management, professionalism, and food safety practices, along with completing a written certification exam. In addition to the gold medal, Bridget receives a full scholarship to the Culinary Institute of America in New York, as well as a golden ticket to compete in the World Food Championships. Congratulations, big time stuff. I also want to congratulate 2 groups of people who do their work behind the scenes: our technology service desk and our purchasing office. Our technology service desk earned a National Pinnacle Award for its commitment to excellence through certification. The members of this team support more than 12,000 school district users and more than 150,000 devices and enterprise systems. We simply could not do what we do without them. Our purchasing office is no stranger to awards, and this year, the office earned its 14th consecutive achievement of excellence in procurement. We are just one of 23 school districts across the nation. And we're talking about a nation that has well over 13,000 school districts to earn this award. This team's work and their ongoing recognition should reassure everyone that we are making excellent use of the taxpayer resources provided to this school district. And finally, oh yeah, I'm sorry, my bad, moving too fast. And finally, here is where we are with our vacancies with about a month to go before school starts. Our HR team continues to work incredibly hard day to day to staff our buildings. I want to point out two things with regard to this data. The teacher vacancy number has dropped from 208 in late June to what you see today at 94. And it's important to note that that 208 was 100 less vacancies during that period of time in June than where we were last year. And for us to be at 94 with still a month to go, this bodes extremely well for how we will start our school year off. But I think what's more important and what you don't see in this data is the retention numbers. We will ultimately give out a retention update, but our retention numbers continue to improve, letting us know that people are feeling really good about how this work environment is here in Anne Arundel County. So I want to thank them for that work. You also see the TBD number under food service workers. I want to say a word about that. Our team is still processing commitment letters for those employees, and I believe we will be in good position in that area when we report this report in August. Again, we will continue to operate with transparency on where we are from a staffing standpoint, but we do feel really good about where this school district is currently with these vacancies as it pertains to in relation to where we were last year at this time. Mr. President, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. And so, ladies and gentlemen, up until this point, we've been contemplating, collecting information about some potential scenarios in terms of our redistricting. And I'd like to just start off again, as I often do, that redistricting means that some students will end up going to different schools. Having said that, we haven't had any proposals. Well, today, our process continues, and in just a moment, we will receive a presentation from Dr. Bedell and his staff, which will include proposal. So there will not be any questions back and forth from the public. And so having said that, I just, after the presentation, I will give some specifics about where we are and where we're going to be going and how we're going to get there from this point forward. So having said that, we're going to be moving on to our presentation. It's item 5.01, our superintendent's recommendations on phase 2 redistricting. Dr. Bedell.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. Before we get into the presentation, there are a few remarks that I need to make. We went through this process 2 years ago with phase 1. And I remember launching phase 1, and then a few days later, I was on vacation. So I didn't have to hear all of the complaints. Well, I just came back from vacation, so I can't run from the aftermath of what's getting ready to be presented. But what I will say to you all, I feel really good about what we're getting ready to present to this board and to this community. We did a lot of things different this time, and we learned from phase 1 around engagement, around sitting down with individual community members. We did listen, but what I did say from the onset of this process was that one way or another, we have to redistrict and we have to balance this school system. And I also said to everybody that there are two ways that you can look at redistricting. One is you're losing enrollment. And remember, the enrollment decline nationally is a negative 2.5% last year in public schools. And so people are having to redistrict because they're having to close schools and they have to change boundaries. And that's the worst reason, in my opinion, to have to redistrict. Or you're on the other side of that coin, which is you are a growing school district. Anne Arundel County is a growing school district. We are projected to, at some point, hit over 92,000 students within the next 6 or 7 years. And those are staggering growth numbers in a district that's this large that has cracked over 85,000 students. And so what that means is that we still then have to balance the system. When we build new schools and we open up schools, we have a policy that requires us to balance. But we also know when you have overcrowding, you have no choice but to balance. Now, I get this as a parent. People move into a community and they do their research based on a particular school. And so when you move in that community, you're moving in that community because you want stability for your child. And what I said to folks was that in every case possible, we will try to do everything in our power to minimize the impact of redistricting, but understanding that there are going to be some areas where we do not have a choice. We have to balance. And we said that when people put in their feedback, we're going to take all of that into consideration. But what I also said in every single one of those community meetings and every single time we've spoken about redistricting behind this diocese is that everything can't be considered. I've said that and I've been very clear. We brought the board along in this process. We've been transparent throughout this process in a way that we did not do in phase one. And so what you're going to hear today, hopefully the vast majority of people will see, they actually listened, they took into consideration, they took a precise look at how they drew this map, and they did it in the most fair and balanced way that they could do it. And then in the end, I'm going to present two options I believe we're going to present that will then go to the board, and then the board has a decision to make. And the board can do some further surgery, some further shaping of the maps, and then ultimately they will take a vote. You will hear all of that. And so with that being said, in advance, I want to thank you all, Dr. Heiser, Kyle. I'm sorry, Kyle. I'm still on vacation. Kyle Roof. I want to thank you all because you and your team did a lot of work attending these meetings, bringing everybody along. I'm excited about what we're getting ready to present, and I want to pass it over to you all now.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Bedell. I'm going to pull the presentation up and get started. Here we go. What's that? President Silkworth, Vice President Dent, members of the board, and Dr. Bedell. I am Bill Heiser, AACPS Chief Operating Officer, and I'm joined by
Kyle Roof, Executive Director of Facilities.
And we are presenting the superintendent's recommendations for Phase 2 redistricting. During our presentation, as most presentations, we will be using several acronyms, and so I'll take a moment for you to review them at this time. This agenda outlines the key topics we will cover today, starting with an overview of the redistricting process to set the context for the board and the public. We'll then review the three initially proposed scenarios, highlighting their differences and potential impacts. Following that, we'll discuss community engagement efforts, to which there were many, to ensure stakeholder voices were heard. Then we'll present the superintendent's recommendations, which are based on data and feedback. And finally, we'll outline the next steps to move forward with the redistricting plan. This structure is designed to provide a comprehensive understanding and facilitate informed decision-making, just as it was in Phase 1. And so I'll begin with an overview of the redistricting process on whole. The policy and regulatory framework guiding the redistricting and determination of school attendance areas within AACPS is outlined in Board Policy JAA and Regulation JAA-01. RA. The key objective is to ensure an equitable process that fairly assigns geographic school boundaries and supports balanced enrollments. Our process in Phase 2 was the same as in Phase 1 redistricting, whereby we take into consideration several factors: the long-range enrollment and capacity needs of our area, school building state-rated capacities, areas that are contiguous communities surrounding the school, use of natural or man-made boundaries or woman-made boundaries, impact on the numbers of students bused, and the distance traveled, as well as maintenance of feeder school patterns and the impact on specialized or regional program. Those are the factors. While each of these factors were considered, it's important to note that it may be impractical to reconcile each and every school attendance area adjustment with each and every factor. That's what makes this so challenging. Why do we redistrict? In general, the primary driving factors driving the need for redistricting are changes in enrollment and programs. We're a growing school district. We have new school openings, facility planning, and funding for additions, renovations, and replacements, school projects. Enrollment patterns show a significant number of available seats, over 14,000. Program changes resulting from the blueprint for Maryland's future require adjustments in school boundaries to accommodate space and program needs within our schools. Specifically related to pre-kindergarten, career technology education, planning, and resource space. Although not included in Phase 2, planning for a new school opening also necessitates redistricting to balance student enrollment effectively. Also, long-range facility planning, including the capital improvement plan known as CIP, and the master plans play a crucial role in shaping these decisions by aligning resources with infrastructure needs. Lastly, funding for building additions, construction, and alterations reflect ongoing need to optimize space usage to secure funding. Together, these are the elements that underscore the complexity and importance of redistricting in AACPS. Phase 2 of the redistricting process primarily covers the Annapolis, Arundel, Broadneck, Crofton, Severna Park, South River, and Southern clusters. In the scenarios presented, certain schools in the Meade cluster were also impacted. Out of 126 schools district-wide, 53 are located within the study area, serving as a significant portion of our school district's enrollment. For the 2024-25 school year, there are 43,339 students in this area, which is just over half of the total 85,029 students across the entire district. This Phase 2 redistricting study builds on the 2023 redistricting study with the primary goal of balancing enrollment and facility utilization in the central and southern parts of the county, particularly to address overcrowding. Additionally, the study also seeks to minimize student travel distances where possible and reduce disruptions to school assignments for students. For the calendar and the schedule, Phase 2 redistricting began in June of 2024 with the selection of the firm WXY as the consultant. From July 2024 to January 2025, which seemed like a long time, AACPS staff and the consultant developed 3 scenarios for public feedback. A web tool opened in February of 2025, allowing public comments until May 15th. That date was initially May 1st, and we extended that 2 weeks. This information was reviewed and to inform today's superintendent recommendation. And next, a board workshop will be held in August, followed by a board option selection and a public briefing in September. Hearings in October and the final board vote in November. Implementation is planned for August of 2026. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Roof to go through the scenarios that were developed by WXY Studio.
So as previously mentioned, the study focuses on the county's central and southern clusters, including Annapolis, Arundel, Broadneck, Crofton, Severna Park, South River, and southern clusters. Our consultant, WXY, produced boundary scenarios using both its redistricting model and manual edits. All boundary changes developed by the consultant and the boundary scenarios were individually reviewed by the consultant and AACPS. The boundary scenarios included a set of shared goals. Improve utilizations as much as possible to fall within the 70 to 100% target utilization range. Reduce the number of schools that exceed 100% utilization or have less than 60% utilization as much as possible. Minimize the number of island assignments. This essentially means rezoning to make an individual school's attendance zone so that it's contiguous. Preserve feeder patterns as much as possible. Minimize distance traveled as much as possible and maximize the number of students in the walk zones. Account for new development in attendance areas. Preserve the current grade bands. So for example, in an elementary school, that would be pre-K through 5, middle 6 through 8, and high school 9 through 12. Account for out-of-area enrollments, including magnet students and other students of choice, and hold their assignments as frozen. And acknowledge school year 24-25 student data used to determine estimated student counts. So each scenario takes a different approach to optimizing boundaries. Scenario 1, aim to balance school capacities by bringing as many schools as possible into the ideal utilization range, reducing both overcrowding and underuse. Scenario 2 builds on Scenario 1, but aims to reduce impact on travel distance while maintaining balanced school utilization. Scenario 3 extends Scenario 1 and 2 to maximize stability, keeping cohorts together and minimizing disruptions to school assignments. These scenarios significantly reduce the number of overutilized schools. If no boundaries are implemented, the district is estimated to have 9 schools overutilized in those scenarios, and all 3 reduce the number for distance traveled at middle schools, but increase distance at elementary and high schools. So our transportation compared the scenarios. They compared the number of estimated walkers for scenarios 1, 2, and 3, and there was no significant impact between those scenarios. But each scenario increased the number of walkers by approximately 20 students and the number of new bus riders by approximately 100. Next, the Transportation Division compared the scenarios to our current bus routes. The scenarios increased the number of bus transportation within the study area, and it's estimated that 9 additional units would be required to transport the students in all 3 scenarios. So community engagement has been a very important component during the Phase 2 redistricting process and helped inform the superintendent's recommendations. The web tool was introduced in February 2025, and the initial comment period extended until May 15th. During that time, 46,000 unique website users accessed the web tool, 91,000 website views were logged, 4,400 survey responses were received, and 8,800 map comments were received. It should be noted that this activity is higher than Phase 1, and most of that activity occurred within the 24 hours after its launch. Following the initial launch, we saw steady engagement and bumps surrounding the 3 public community meetings that were held at Southern High School, Annapolis Middle School, and here at Central Office. Over 4,400 survey responses were collected and reviewed by our staff. Crofton High School recorded the most at 1,344, followed by South River and Severna Park High School. In contrast to Phase 1, preserving existing student assignments and feeder patterns surfaced as key priorities among respondents in the Phase 2 feeders. Notably, while certain areas in Phase 2 study area are experiencing overutilization challenges, survey respondents in those areas did not rank it as a top priority. The interactive web tool received 8,463 MAP comments. Scores ranged from most negative to most positive. The boundary comment tool captured substantially more feedback in Phase 2, reflecting heightened public input in this phase of redistricting. Scenario 1 provided a large amount of comments in the Arundel and Crofton area, as well as many in the South River cluster. Scenario 2 provided concentrations of comments in the Nantucket Elementary and Two Rivers Elementary areas of Crofton and Arundel, and another large concentration in the Riva area of South River. Scenario 3 showed similar concentration locations as Scenario 2, but also showed another concentration of comments in the Jones Elementary School area of Severna Park. Boundary comments tend to be highly clustered in space and sentiment. As such, boundary comments provide an indication of which boundary decisions that are most popular or unpopular. None of the scenarios received a net positive approval rating. But overall, Scenario 3 retained a more favorable rating throughout the engagement period. After reviewing the comments and information gained through the public engagement period and updating the data set with information from the 2025 Educational Facilities Master Plan, the superintendent, with the assistance of our consultant and planning staff, crafted the following recommendations using public comment and Scenario 3 to help inform these proposals. So on the screen, show key metrics of the two superintendent recommendations noted as R1 and R2 compared to the current boundaries. Relative to the current boundaries, R1 increases overall distance traveled by approximately 1% and impacts approximately 2% of the Phase 2 students. R2 is less impactful. In R2, the overall distance traveled number and rezoned students is lower than R1. Based on survey and MAP comment responses, the superintendent's recommendations focus on reducing the number of feeder pattern changes and split articulations. In R1, 2 feeder pattern changes are introduced, including 1 split articulation. A portion of middle school and high school students living in the Nantucket Elementary School zone are rezoned to Arundel Middle School and High School. Students living in the Mills Parole, high school students living in the Mills Parole Elementary School zone are reassigned to South River High School. R1 addresses overcrowding and balances enrollments within the study area with only 1 school in the 100 to 110% utilization category. This overutilized school is Crofton High School. And recently, we submitted an SRC update, and we anticipate, once the approval is provided, that this will bring the school into the optimal utilization range. The SRC submission process for Crofton High School will be discussed in subsequent slides. In superintendent recommendation number 2, only 1 split feeder pattern change is introduced, and it's a split articulation. A portion of high school students living in Nantucket Elementary School zone are rezoned to Arundel Middle School and Arundel High School. R2 manages overcrowding and enrollment balance similar to R1. Crofton High School, again, is the only school with an 100% utilization. Pending the proposed SRC adjustment, this change is anticipated to bring the school into the optimal utilization range. So the hatched area on the screen represents areas being redistricted from current boundaries and both of the superintendent's recommendations. So recommendations 1 and 2 propose identical elementary school boundary changes. In Area A, a significant adjustment is observed within the Arundel and Meade clusters. Due to ongoing residential development in this region of the county, a review of the boundaries for Two Rivers Elementary School and Piney Orchard was deemed necessary. Additionally, in response to increased residential growth near the Odenton Town Center, boundary modifications were implemented among Odenton, Manorview, and Seven Oak Elementary Schools. In Area B, the R1 and R2 recommend moving the Glen Isle and Hambleton neighborhoods of Davidsonville Elementary School to Central Elementary School to maintain most of Davidsonville's current boundaries. The heat map shows utilization categories based on realigning current students. The utilization to highlight include those in Area A. Two Rivers reduces its current utilization to 80% in anticipation of future residential growth. Piney Orchard Elementary is increased to 91%. Seven Oaks increases to 80%. Manorview Elementary School increases slightly to 74%, and Odenton decreases below 100% to 91%. In Area B, Central Elementary School holds stable at approximately 92%. Davidsonville Elementary School drops from 103 to 99%, and Edgewater Elementary School increases from 87% to 93%. For middle school boundary adjustments, the notable difference between current boundary and the superintendent's is an articulation pattern at Nantucket Elementary School, or Area A on the map. In order to alleviate overcrowding at Crofton Middle School, a split articulation is being recommended for a portion of Nantucket highlighted in the hatched green or yellow color. Students north of Nantucket's building that access Rydell Road would move from Nantucket Elementary to Arundel Middle School following the 5th grade year. In Area B, the portion of Edgewater Elementary School north of the South River would continue to attend Central Middle School in both recommendations. In Area C, Jones Elementary School would continue to attend Severna Park Middle School in both recommendations. Utilizations at the middle school worth noting include those in Area A on the screen. Arundel Middle School would increase utilization to 97%. Crofton Middle School would decrease utilization below 100% to 93%. In both areas B and C, Central Middle School and Severna Park Middle School utilization and boundaries would remain relatively unchanged. At the high school level, the R1 recommendation maintains the articulation patterns introduced at the middle school in areas A and C, but introduces a new articulation pattern in Area B. At high school, students living in the Mills Parole Elementary School attendance area would matriculate from Annapolis Middle School to South River High School. Utilization at the high school in R1 worth noting include those in Area A. Arundel High School would increase utilization to 87%. Crofton High School would decrease utilization from 111% to 101%. In Area B, South River High School would increase utilization to 93%. while Annapolis High School would decrease to 81%. In Area C, Severna Park High School would remain unchanged at 87%. At the high school level, the R2 recommendation, maintaining the articulation patterns introduced at the middle school level for areas A, B, and C, but introduces a magnet school change at Annapolis High School to relieve overcrowding. This recommendation proposed the relocation of the Apex Arts Magnet Program from Annapolis High School to a new location. Utilization at the high school in R2 worth noting include those in Area A. Arundel High School would increase utilization to 87%. Crofton High School would decrease from 111 to 101. In areas B, South River High School would remain unchanged at 75%, while Annapolis High School would decrease to 87%. In Area C, Severna Park High School would remain unchanged at 87.
State-rated capacity, known as SRC, is governed by COMAR. SRC represents the maximum number of students a school can physically accommodate, as determined by the Interagency Committee on School Construction, known as the IAC. The IAC sets the capacity by carefully reviewing the school's floor plans and program documents to ensure accuracy. The calculation involves multiplying the number of teaching stations of each type. These are spaces designed to hold a full class for instructional purposes by the state-accepted number of students allowed per teaching station. This formula ensures that capacity assessments are standardized and based on physical space and instructional needs, helping to guide school planning and resource allocation effectively. The SRC is set by the IAC when a new construction, renovation, addition, or replacement project is completed and the facility is occupied. Additionally, the IAC can update the SRC if the educational space's uses changes. Recent changes to individual SRCs stem from updates in calculation methods as per COMAR, approved in October of 2023 and published in August of 2024. Other factors influencing SRC adjustment include initiatives from the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, the addition of pre-K classrooms, community school uses, special education classrooms, resource rooms, and career and technical education programming spaces. I'd like to take a deeper dive into the history of the SRC at Crofton High School. This timeline highlights SRC milestones that led to the current seat count. Starting in 2016, the Educational Specification Design established an SRC of 1696, which was maintained throughout the construction documents phase. A post-occupancy submission was made and accepted by the IAC in 2021 for 1743 seats. In October of 2023, the IAC voted to adjust how SRCs were calculated at the secondary level. This update specifically impacted the number of teaching stations in gymnasiums. In August of 2024, AACPS completed interior renovation work to accommodate increased student enrollment, and COMAR was updated to reflect the SRC calculation changes. Following the interior renovation work, a request to update the SRC was submitted to the IAC. This submission was approved in November of 2024 for 1722. Due to changes in the calculation, the SRC went down even though additional classrooms were added to the building. In July of 2025, an update to the SRC was submitted to the IAC for approval. This update acknowledges additional programmatic changes within the building and is anticipated to increase the SRC by 54 seats. The current SRC for Crofton High School is 1722. The recently submitted update request classrooms be added due to programmatic changes on the second and third floors. Specifically, 2 second floor spaces, which was originally designated for autism and publication rooms, will now be used as classrooms, adding a total of 32.5 seats. Similarly, 2 third floor spaces previously used for ESOL and book storage were consolidated and converted into a classroom, contributing to an additional 21.25 seats. The requested SRC update is anticipated to add an additional 53.75 seats and will bring the total SRC for Crofton High School to 1776. This change would bring the school to an optimally utilized level at 98%. Our transportation division compared the number of walkers in superintendent's recommendation to the current boundaries, and there was no significant difference between the scenarios. Then they compared the estimated bus riders from the superintendent's recommendation to our current number of bus riders, and there were about 250 more bus riders in R2, recommendation 2, and no changes in recommendation 1. Recommendation 2 increases the bus ridership is primarily due to the movement of the APEX program from Annapolis High School. Next, our transportation division compared the superintendent's recommendation 2 to our current bus routes. Under this recommendation, there is an increased need for bus transportation within the study area, and it is estimated that 3 additional units would be required to transport students based on the Annapolis cluster change. Legacy students. Students who will be entering 12th grade in SY 2026 and 27 will have the option to remain at the high school to which they are currently assigned. Students electing to remain at their current high school will be required to enter a legacy student transfer portal, and transportation will not be provided for legacy students opted to remain at their current school. All other students will be required to attend the newly assigned school. This is consistent with phase 1. Under Superintendent Recommendation 1, students currently enrolled in magnet program at our secondary schools will not be impacted and will continue to attend their assigned school. Magnet school transportation will continue to be provided. Under Recommendation 2, the magnet students enrolled in the APEX program at Annapolis High School only will be relocated to a new location to be determined by the superintendent. The Annapolis High School IB program is not impacted, and this program will remain at Annapolis High School regardless of boundary assignment changes. Magnet school transportation will continue to be provided under R2. Next step, key dates, and the process for the board. Starting tomorrow on July 24th, we will post the superintendent's recommendation on the AACPS website with the opportunity for the public to view the maps and also to provide the public an opportunity to comment. Online public comment will take place from July 24 until September 5th. On August 18th, as was mentioned earlier in this meeting, we will hold a redistricting workshop and to be able to answer questions, elaborate questions from the board. Once again, then on September 5th, the online comment period will close. Next, on September 17th, a board decision on which proposal or proposals to take forward to the public for public briefing and public hearing will take place. Then in September and October of 2025, we will hold a public briefing and public hearings. On November 19th, the board will vote on which proposals to adopt for phase 2 redistricting. And finally, in August of 2026, the redistricting plan for phase 2 will take effect. So thank you for listening and the opportunity to present. At this time, I'll turn it back over to President Silkworth and to the board to answer any clarifying questions that there might be. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Heiser, Mr. Roof. So I'm going to check out my lights. Ms. Schellheim.
Yes, first I want to thank you for the very thorough presentation. This was a heavy lift, and I greatly appreciate the collaboration between um, the staff and the board over these last several months and answering our endless questions. Just thank you. I know this was a lot of work. Regarding what's going to be posted tomorrow, is it going to be as interactive as the previous tool where one can put in their address and see where they would land in R1 and R2?
Yeah, it'll be very similar to that. So there'll be an address search bar, also a comment function. We encourage the public to use that comment function. Those will be tracked and reviewed.
Fantastic. I'm a visual learner myself, so being able to see it is very helpful as we all digest these changes. And again, I just want to thank you for the work and the wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Ms. Stant?
So good afternoon. First of all, thank you to not only staff, but for everyone, because I know this is a lot of angst and a lot of people have been very diligent about sending their comments, and to have 91,000 comments, I think is kudos to all of you all that put your comments in, but more so for the staff to take the time out to go through it. I know it's a lot of work and I truly appreciate it. I just have one small question. It's not a question, it's more of a clarification. We've talked about it before, but I think it's important, especially with the highlighting of the Crofton High School, is to just expand a little bit on having an accurate SRC and how that impacts the Interagency Commission on Construction, or the IAC. If you could just expand that a little bit. And I asked that question for a couple of reasons: that you did a quick overview of the modifications that you had made to get to the 54 seats. But I think it's important for the public to really hear why the SRC and the IAC work together in order for us to be able to get to get below the SRC and make sure we have enough seats available.
Sure. So anytime there's a programmatic change within the school as far as room usage, we periodically will go out to individual buildings and update the SRCs. It just so happens that during this period of time, we're also doing the long range study, which heightened our focus on SRCs throughout the system. So during that process, we went through the building, we interviewed the staff at the building, the administration, and determined that those 3 rooms could be updated to reflect actual classroom usage. During that process, what we have to do is we produce a floor plan with square footage measurements and also room usage information, and we submit that to the IAC. The IAC then validates that information. They may ask questions along the way. That process can take between 6 and 12 months to get approval. They use that information primarily for planning purposes to determine, when we request state funding on state projects, whether and how much funding will be provided to us. So it's essential that we get that information to them to help validate future projects for us.
And I'm correct, you said that would take up to 6 to 12 months, correct?
That has been the recent timeline that we're using.
I just really think it's important that we know that it's not going to be happening overnight, one, and that it is a process, and that you guys did this as a part of the long-range planning. Sometimes I think that people need to be help understand just the process. I know for me, during this redistricting process, just the acronyms alone got really exciting, and I think it was a conversation that I had to sit down and have with Mr. Silkworth to understand why we keep talking about SRC, why we, what are all these committees? And so we spent a long time. And I can say that from me as a board member, having heard these acronyms all the time. So I think it's important, and it is important for me to help the public understand how the SRC and IAC work in collaboration. Thank you.
Dr. Tobin?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation and the development of these 2 proposals. I do understand just how much work went into this, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate the collaboration and the transparency of the process. And I also want to add, again, I'm looking at this initially. I'm going to have to sit down and go over it, obviously, more precisely, but it does seem to me that there has been, with regard to the superintendent's proposals, some more sort of surgical work in attempting, as was mentioned at the beginning, to offer proposals that provide for the least amount of disruption. And I hope the public is aware of how complicated it is to do that. That there really has been attention to a lot of the feedback. And even though we each, of course, represent our individual districts, we're all going to be voting on this and therefore have been hearing in many cases from those in other districts because they want us to understand their concerns. And so I just want to thank you for that. I know there will probably, as the board now puts its mind to it, and as was noted in these comments, and I think it's always worth clarifying that the staff and the superintendent put forward this proposal, but this is ultimately a board decision. And so this is, profoundly helpful for us as we make our decision to have all this careful work that's gone into it thus far. So thank you very much.
Ms. Pullum.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm just going to start off with that. District 7 is definitely one of the areas where we have 3 feeders that were, that was highly, could have been, impacted. But I think that with the team and all the comments from the community, it really made a difference. So first, I want to thank the team. Second, thank the community, because your comments and the emails and the calls all made a big difference. I learned over the last 2 months, I learned a lot. I got to talk to over 1,400 people, and I got to hear the history. I got to hear a lot and learn so much. I got to read the newspaper articles that were shared with me. What I promise you is I will work with my colleagues to take that next step. So much has been done here, and I agree with Dr. Tobin. There's more to be done. So thank you. I promise you we'll do the best that we can, God willing, numbers allowing, and your feedback and having you by our side, we'll be able to do this. But thank you. Oh, one question. The last comment, Crofton High School, thank you, especially for those in our 2 communities. The SRC reassessing that, you didn't have to do it, you did it. You took it seriously and you came back and you're going through that process. That means a lot to all of them, that their voices were heard. So thank you. I know it wasn't something you're expecting. I know the long range facility plan was in process, but that is something that's going to mean a lot to them. You might not agree on the space, but guess what? You went through the process, and I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no more lights, I would also like to add my thanks to everyone, Dr. Heiser, Mr. Roof, and Dr. Bedell and staff. But as Ms. Pullum said, also thank you to all the stakeholders. There's been an awful lot of collaboration that's taken place over the past 6 months with so many stakeholders. We know redistricting means some students have to go to a different school. And that is exactly what it means. So, but the collaboration that's been evidenced by meetings that we've had, the web tool, unbelievable amount of data, and the amount of listening that's taken place. Dr. Bedell has been a great listener. We are doing our very best to listen to all of our stakeholders. And so now the process continues. So now that the superintendent has presented his recommendation to the board, the following key dates are important to note. First, today's presentation. Following today's presentation, a web tool will be available for community stakeholders to provide comments on the recommendations. This web tool will remain open, I believe, until Friday, September 5. So I encourage everyone to utilize the web tool that was created for you and your fellow community members to provide input to the board so that we can formulate our proposal or proposals. The board will host a workshop on the superintendent's redistricting recommendation on Monday, August the 18th, beginning at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom. And I can guarantee that there will be quite a few questions at that time. The board will select a proposal or proposals to bring forward for a public hearing, a public briefing and public hearings, which will be scheduled in September and October of 2025. And the board will vote to adopt the Phase 2 redistricting plan at our November 19th board meeting. And complete information about the redistricting process can be found at www.aacps.org/phase2 redistricting. So having said that, I see Mr. Morris' light.
Hi. First, I want to thank everyone involved again. This is not an easy process, and I feel I knew and had to catch up a lot, and I feel like everyone involved did a great job of helping me catch up and everything. And so thank you for that. I guess a quick question I have, when I talk with students who, did have to move in Phase 1 and students who will have to move in Phase 2, because like President Silverworth said, that's something that, was always going to happen. I might have missed it, and I think we've talked a little bit about it. What is in place for students that have to move to kind of cushion that adjustment and everything for them having to move over?
That's a great question, and that was an important component of Phase 1. And the team did a really remarkable job in Phase 1, but we always can learn how to do things better in Phase 1. And so Ms. Jackson kind of oversees our student service area, as well as our chief academic officer, and working directly with principals and schools to making sure that, number one, they have a toolkit that they can use to help students that are leaving their schools and going to a new school, and for those principals and staff that are receiving students. So making sure that those resource sources are in place, because not all kids need the same things, and we want to make sure that we're sensitive to those things. And so outreach is really important in communication. There was in Mr. Mosier's office, in conjunction with those other divisions that I mentioned. Those divisions are essential in this work, and making sure that we're being proactive in reaching out to families and students that are impacted, and making sure they have a smooth transition and can be set up for success, not only on day one of school, but before that school year starts, right? That happens.
Thank you. And then, like I mentioned, I know we've talked about that, and I just want the public to kind of hear that again, because I know that sometimes can be a concern for people that know they have to move. And so, like I said, grateful for Mr. Mosier's team and, your team as well for making sure those are in place.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bedell, Dr. Heiser, Mr. Roof. All right, we're going to be moving on to some awarding of contracts, some consent items. Do I hear a motion to bundle, by the way?
Mr. President, I move to bundle consent items 6.01 through 6.05 and 6.7 through 6.13.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to bundle. We have consensus? We do. Do we? Dr. Bedell?
All right. Thank you. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education authorize the award of contracts on the consent items 6.01 through 6.05 and 6.07 through 6.13.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any discussion? Ms. Howe?
Ms. McFarland? Aye. Mr. Morgan?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
All righty, moving on to some action items. Item 7.01, administrative personnel appointments. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Mr. President. The superintendent recommends the approval of the administrative personnel appointments as discussed in executive close.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Ms. Howe?
Ms. McFarland? Aye. Mr. Morgan?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott? Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, item 7.02, personnel. Dr. Bedell.
Mr. President, the superintendent recommends that the board approve the actions as stipulated on the attached sheets.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Howe?
Ms. McFarland? Aye. Mr. Morgan?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
All righty, we're going to move on to some policy revisions. First of all, on second reading, item 7.03, assignment and transfer of students, code JAB.
Thank you, Mr. President. Grace Wilson will take us through these items.
Good afternoon, President Silkworth, Vice President Dent, members of the board, and Dr. Bedell. I'm Grace Wilson, the Director of Legislation and Policy. Policy JAB, assignment and transfer of students to a school, is before you on second reading after being posted for a 30-day public comment period. There was no feedback received within that time frame. As a reminder, this policy was last revised in 2015 and is being scheduled for review at the request of staff to update the policy and regulation to align with current practices. The recommended changes to the policy include expanding policy purpose to include the transfer of students between schools and updating the issue statement to include a state law requirement and more appropriately reflect board values. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you have on policy JAB.
Okay, I'm seeing no lights, so thank you. Item 7.04, student attire and personal appearance, code JCD.
Policy JCD, student attire and personal appearance, is also before you on second reading after being posted for a 30-day public comment period. There were 2 comments received that have been shared with the board, the superintendent, and posted publicly. As a reminder, this policy was last revised in 2016 and was scheduled for review at the request of a board member. The changes to the policy include the addition of position statement C2, which permits students to choose how they wear their hair unless there's a concern for student health or safety. We've also added language to ensure that the policy does not contribute to a hostile or intimidating atmosphere for students, and language establishing that students have the right to be treated equitably and with dignity, including in the enforcement of the policy. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you may have on policy JCD.
Ms. Schallheim.
Yes, thank you as always, Ms. Wilson and your team. Regarding some of the comments that we received about this policy, specifically the second comment, and specifically regarding the words distracting and disruptive, I understand where this parent is coming from and the subjectivity that could be involved in that language, and so at the appropriate time, I'm going to offer an amendment.
Do we have any other lights? Not seeing any other lights, I think this may be the appropriate time.
Excellent. So to address that, and you know, we spoke about this, and from what I gathered via that conversation, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's some support here for this. I'd like to amend the second sentence in section C, position bullet point 1, to revise the second sentence to read as follows. So I move that the second sentence be revised to read as follows. Clothes that cause a health or safety hazard are not appropriate and not acceptable at school.
Second.
Okay, we do have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, I just have one question. Your reaction, Ms. Wilson?
If the board feels that this language is concerning, I have no issue with it being stricken from the policy.
Yeah, actually, just above that, there is a notation about disruption.
Correct. And Ms. Schallheim and I, in discussing it, we believe that there's a difference between posing a disruption and a disruptive environment, which is why we kept the pose a disruption language in the issue statement. Additionally, your issue statement is just summarizing the issue and is not as controlling as your position statement is, which is why you get the discrepancy between the two actions here.
Okay, seeing no more lights, Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schallheim moved to amend C position. Number 1, to read students shall dress in clothes that promote a safe and respectful learning environment. Clothes that cause a health or safety hazard are not appropriate and not acceptable at school. Ms. McFarland.
Aye.
Mr. Morgan.
Aye.
Ms. Dent.
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Ms. McDermott. Ms. Pulliam.
Nay.
Ms. Schallheim.
Aye.
And Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
That's 7-1, motion passes.
Okay, anything else about student attire?
No, it will be back on third reading at the next board
Correct.
meeting.
Okay, well, moving on to item 7.05, student telehealth code JU.
Wonderful. Policy JU, student telehealth, is before you on second reading for adoption by the board. During the 30-day public comment period, there was one public comment that was provided, and that has been shared with the board superintendent and made publicly available. As a reminder, there was state law passed in 2024, which required that boards adopt a student telehealth policy before the beginning of the 25-26 school year. Given that this was an unfunded state mandate, staff is recommending that we provide student telehealth, but we limit that to school practitioner telehealth for behavioral health only in accordance with our existing partnerships and processes. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you have on new policy JU.
Okay, I'm seeing no lights, so thank you.
I'm sorry.
Oh, but we do have a light. Ms. Dent?
So I just have a comment, and this is really more for the public because we've talked about the student telehealth on numerous occasions. I've had questions being asked. So I just would like the public to take time out to provide your comments so that we do get your feedback and input before this policy is adopted and go into place. I do think that this is not only important, it's critical to the mental health of students and making sure that they have access to telehealth. And so I would encourage all family members that are being, and all families that are impacted this, as well as students. It's important that the students also put their input because they are the stakeholders that we're talking about. So I encourage them to put feedback and comments on this policy as well. And I'm going to ask the student member of the board, if you don't mind, just do me a solid and send it out to our students so that they know that this is available to them, and that if they have any comments and want to see changes to the policy, that we can do our due diligence in doing so. Thank you.
Ms. Pullum?
Sorry, thank you. Yes, she took the words right out of my mouth. Just thank you also to the CAC for all the due diligence they did on this. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to item 7.06, first reading homeless students, code JAC.
Thank you, President Silkworth. Policy JAC, homeless students, is before you this afternoon for first reading. The accompanying regulation, JACRA, was initially requested for review last school year by staff in order to align the regulation with changes in federal and state laws and regulations. During that regulatory review process, though, it was noted that our board policy or administrative regulation did not address the federal and state prohibition on homeless students being segregated based on their homeless status. So to ensure that our policy is in alignment with all of the state, federal laws and regulations on this subject matter, we're recommending that the policy be updated to address that prohibition. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you have on policy JAC.
I'm seeing no lights, so thank you. Ms.
Thank you,
Wilson.
Mr. Silkworth.
Okay, we're moving on to item review items 8.01, construction and status report. Any concerns? Okay, seeing none, I believe that brings us to our public comments on non-agenda items. Oh. Thank you for all the help. That's great. It wasn't on the back of my page, but, so item 8.02, award of contracts. Okay. All right, so now we're on item 9.0, public comments on non-agenda items. So before we get to the public comments, we have announcements that we always make. This is one of the opportunities that the board provides to hear the views and receive the advice of community members. The members of this board appreciate hearing from interested citizens. As appropriate, we will refer your concerns to the superintendent for follow-up by his staff. The board will hear public comment from up to 10 total speakers, a combination of virtual and in-person per agenda item, excluding personnel items, reports, and recognitions. During a single public comment section in the early portion of the meeting, the board will hear public comment from up to 10 total speakers on items not on the agenda, excluding any student-specific or personnel items near the end of the meeting. The link to register to comment before the board opened at 3 p.m. on the Friday prior to this meeting. Registration closed at noon on the Monday prior to this meeting. Speakers may sign up for no more than 2 agenda items, but only once on any individual item. For any item with more than 10 registered speakers, the board will employ a lottery process to select the speakers. Registrants who secure a slot to speak were notified by email at the email address they provided when they registered. All speakers will be allotted 2 minutes and must address the specifics of the agenda item for which they signed up for. No speaker substitutes or substitutions will be permitted. If your name is called and you are not present, we will move on to the next speaker. For anyone who was not selected to speak at today's meeting, you may email your comments to the board office at boardoffice@aacps.org. While we encourage public input on policies, programs, and practices within the purview of this board and the school system, this is not the proper forum to address specific student or employee matters, or to comment on matters that do not relate to public education in Anne Arundel County. We encourage everyone to utilize existing dispute resolution processes as appropriate. I remind everyone that any inappropriate personnel remarks or other behavior that disrupts or interferes with the conduct of this meeting are out of order. Persons using language that is threatening or promotes violence against members of this body or Anne Arundel County public school employees are subject to legal penalties. Persons who otherwise disrupt or disturb this meeting will not be allowed to continue their remarks and will be asked to leave the meeting. It is not the board's general practice to engage in question and answer session with speakers. For the record, please give your name before speaking. Handouts should be given to the board assistant. I ask that speakers observe the 2-minute clock. A yellow light will shine when you have 30 seconds remaining, and a tone will sound when your time has expired. Please conclude your remarks when you hear the tone. If you continue after your time has expired, the microphone may be turned off. It could also be turned off if a speaker addresses specific student or employee matters or are commenting on matters not related to public education in Anne Arundel County. So we do have 4 speakers this afternoon, and I'll be calling them up. First of all, we have Dennis Sullivan, Jennifer Hansel, Jeremiah Grossman, and Benjamin Levenger.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Board members, I want to thank you for having me speak today. I'm a coach at North County High School for lacrosse, and on behalf of many dedicated coaches across the county, I want to, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, sorry. Many of you guys are not fully aware of what coaches across the county do. So before we go any further, here's what we do. We run lifts 2 to 3 times a week. We manage our team schedules. We purchase uniforms, equipment, swag for our players. We participate in community events and fundraisers. We recruit, manage assistant coaches. We coordinate all-county, all-American award voting. We coach summer league. We host open gyms and open fields. We mentor players, sometimes even driving them to college and college visits. We run study halls and grade checks. We supervise players before and after practice. We act as counselors, role models, and motivators. We are the first called from teachers when a player acts out, and we're the enforcers. And that's all for free. I haven't even mentioned that during the season, we run 3-hour practices 6 days a week. Now let's talk about the compensation. And this is not NIL money, ladies and gentlemen. A first-year coach, class 2, currently earns $3,004 a year. When I started coaching in this county 23 years ago, that stipend was $2,623. If that amount actually kept up with inflation, it should be more around $4,000. Yet a class 2 coach with 13 years, me, experience currently earns just $5,407, when that number should be closer to $7,000 based on inflation alone. So what am I asking for? We have 5 great ideas. Number 1, pay us more. The stipend from 20 years ago should be adjusted for inflation and pay us at least that amount. Number 2, pay our coaches more, pay our teacher coaches more. A coach in the building that is a teacher does way more than a coach outside of a building. Number 3, postseason pay. Currently, coaches in the playoffs are literally working for free. Compensate them with a $30 per diem rate, and then compensate off-season workouts and include coaching pay and retirement calculations. I want to thank you for your time. The coaches also believe in the girls. And of course, go Knights. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Hansel.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jennifer Hansel. 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before they turn 18, and yet less than 5% of those reports are found to be false. Let's treat this as a business problem. If 95% of your data pointed to catastrophic failure, would you wait? Of course not. You'd act, because anything less would be an unacceptable risk. When abuse happens in schools and institutions fail to respond well, it results in institutional betrayal, and the trauma is deep, community-wide, and lasting. As elected officials, it is your duty to respond as seriously and as systematically as the harm. We urge you to take 3 actions. First, audit the county's child protection policy. Compare it to best practices from Howard County and DC public schools. Ensure immediate reassignment of accused staff. Enforce strict boundaries. Mandate ongoing training and engage parents transparently. Second, build trauma-informed schools where culture, policy, and practice align to protect and empower students. That includes safety education for students, trained staff, better ratios, effective monitoring, and timely communication with parents. Third, ensure transparency. Provide data and allegations and outcomes so community can hold the school system accountable and stop predators from circulating among schools. Children deserve safety, families deserve transparency, and this board must lead with courage. Thank you.
Jeremiah Grossman.
Good afternoon, members of the board. A recent multi-state study of high school graduates revealed a deeply troubling truth. 11.7% of students reported experiencing at least one form of educator sexual misconduct during their K-12 years. Most of these incidents were never reported to school personnel or law enforcement. And even when students did speak up, disciplinary action was rare. Let's bring that home. Anne Arundel County currently has about 5,800 12th grade students. Based on that national average, approximately 680 of those students will graduate having been subjected to sexual misconduct by a teacher, coach, or other school employee. That's 680 young people each year who have been failed by the very system that was entrusted with their safety. The consequences echo far beyond the classroom. Students who experience educator sexual misconduct are significantly more likely to use drugs and alcohol, to attempt suicide, and to find themselves in abusive or coercive relationships. We cannot allow this to continue, not here in Anne Arundel County. Even one child should be too many. 680 per year is a moral crisis. We can't change the past, but we can shape the future. And today, I ask you, I urge you to seize this moment and commit to making Anne Arundel County Public Schools the safest in Maryland, a model for the nation and the world in preventing, detecting, and responding to educator sexual misconduct. Thank you.
Benjamin Levenger.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Ben Levenger, and I'm a father of 2 boys at an Anne Arundel County elementary school. I'm here today to talk about child safety in the schools and also the response of the school district in times of crisis for students and families. In the spring of 2024, our school was thrown into crisis mode. I will not get into all of the details here today, but my son's teacher was suddenly not in school anymore. Eventually, we were told this individual is under investigation based on accusations from students. It was a confusing and stressful time to be a parent at our school. I believe that the response from the school and the school district was not helpful to our community of parents and students at that time. While we understood why the school system wanted to stay silent about certain aspects of the situation, the basic response was silence across the board. We received no guidance from the school district about what we should or should not do. Should we discuss the incident with our child? If so, what should we say? How should we talk about it? With a lack of guidance or direction, each family was left to make these decisions on their own, which led to a variety of problems. Furthermore, there was confusion about other matters. There was no information given on what to do if your child wanted to report an accusation, or if your child may have seen something that could be useful for an investigation. It was an overwhelming and painful moment to be a parent in our community. A lack of guidance from the school system left us to navigate everything on our own. We believe that the school district should examine its policies regarding allegations against school staff and how the school system should communicate with parents and students during those situations. Let's study best practices and look at gaps in AACPS policies. Let's work together to make our schools a safer and more supportive place for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. That does conclude our public comments on non-agenda items. And that brings me to whether or not we're going to have a motion. Before we get to that, just a couple of reminders. There will be a board workshop about redistricting. That's August 18th here at 6 p.m. in the boardroom. And the next general board meeting for Anne Arundel County Public Schools is on August the 20th, a 12 p.m. meeting here in the boardroom. And so do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Consensus. Good afternoon, everyone.